Yes.
Well, we probably haven't fixed them up, but we've guided
Yeah.
people in the right direction to go if they're still going to get some.
Absolutely.
And you wanted to tell us a bit more about stem cells.
Yeah, so I'm a bit excited this week because one of my friends, Linda Hoggart, has been working with a neuroscientist called Christian Drapeau. And he started doing research on stem cells about 19 years ago and looking at ways of developing something that actually helps to increase stem cell production from your bone marrow. So, basically stem cells, I don't know how much you know about stem cells.
Well, I was about to ask, excuse me, I'm just having a nice little bicky with a coffee. A lot of people have heard about stem cells, but what exactly are they?
Well, stem cells are a cell that's stored in your bone marrow, and they're adult stem cells, by the way, from the moment we're born. So these are different to placental stem cells, which, of course, that's one of the big controversial things. And one of the problems with those stem cells, just by the way, is because they're designed to help babies replicate cells.
Right.
So therefore, if we take baby placental cells, we're more likely to develop things replicating that aren't meant to replicate in our bodies. So people are more likely to develop weird little tumours with growths or hair or bones. They're sort of named. Yeah, so there's been some research that they've been doing, and so far not going that well. In America, there's a new treatment that they're doing with stem cells that they're taking from people's fat tissue, because apparently fat tissue has a lot of stem cells in it, and then they inject them into other areas of the body, and that allows the other areas of the body to heal. So stem cells, adult stem cells that are stored in our bone marrow, they can become any tissue in the body. They can become the heart, the liver, the lungs, the kidneys. They can become red blood cells and white blood cells, brain. They can sort of basically become any tissue they need, which is why stem cell research is so important. So this guy, Christian Drapeau, he was doing some research and he found this area in I think it was in Oregon, in America, US, and he found that in this area, around this particular lake, people had higher than normal levels of stem cells circulating in the blood. And it's a really pristine area, and there's a volcano, a couple of 100 kilometres away that spat lots of volcanic ash into the local lake. And I don't know whether you know about volcanic ash, but that's one of the reasons why the Mediterranean is so healthy and rich and nutritious with its food. It's because of all the volcanic ash falling and that creating this amazing land and soil and stuff. And we just don't have it here in Australia. It's totally different to this area across the Mediterranean that just has all of these volcanoes all over the place. Yeah. Anyway, so Northern America, they found a similar thing with this particular algae in this particular lake, and people were eating the fish from the lake and all sorts of stuff like that. So there was something about this that was stimulating the production of adult stem cells more than normal in the bloodstream. So basically about 15 years ago, he discovered that there was there was an ingredient in it. There was an alkaloid in it called AFA, and I can't remember the long name for it, but basically it's the substance in the algae that actually helps to stimulate the stem cell production from the bone marrow.
That's amazing.
So now what ends up happening is that if you can get that happening long term, it means that things start to regenerate in the body. So, of course, the delight about getting older is that everything goes to,
Yeah, I know, yes.
Shuts down. So I think when we're 25, like a lot of things, when we're 25, we've got the best of everything. That's when we have our maximum amount of adult stem cells being brought out into the system. It's things like inflammation and stress and toxicity that make the stem cells really sticky on the inside of the bone marrow so they can't be released. And then when we're stressed, the liver releases that stuff called fibrin, which I've mentioned before. Fibrin is a sticky substance like spider web. It gets out into your bloodstream and it's that clotting agent, so the whole tiger thing. So when the tiger pounces, the liver releases the fibrin so that our blood clots so we don't bleed out and die. So basically fibrin is a good thing, but of course when we are stressed constantly and we're not actually going to die, we just feel tired and exhausted because this fibrin slows down our blood supply. So if it slows down our blood supply, you can't get the nutrition everywhere, so you can be eating the best diet, but you're still not getting the uptake of nutrients into your cells.
Right.
So basically fibrin then, so even if you do release the stem cells from your bone marrow, and we release 5% less per year, by the time we're about 40, we're releasing well, not huge amounts like we were when we were 25, and they sort of suspect it's just a downhill slide by about 5% per year. Everything's 5% per year as we age. It really stinks.
Yeah. Hearing, eyes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Well,
so this is now back to the stem cells.
yes.
And it's an ash from the volcanoes.
No, it's the algae. No. So
algae
the stem cells are in our body, but the algae from this particular lake is what stimulates the production of these stem cells from our body. So every time we take 2, which is a dose, it increases them by 34% for 6 to 9 hours. So that's about 8 to 9 million extra stem cells circulating in the bloodstream. Now, the funny thing about stem cells is, like everything in the body has its own hierarchy. So we might have a client who, say, takes it for their knees, but we say, we can't make the stem cells go to your knees, because if there is a problem with, say, the heart or the liver or the lungs, which are obviously a higher priority to your body and to living than your knees are, it might take a little while to get to your knees.
Right.
But nonetheless, it's sort of like an interesting concept because by the way, when you go to, when you have stem cell injections in the States, it's like $25,000 per, so we're not talking a small amount of money. And people, obviously, I don't know what their healthcare's like over there anymore. I think some people had pretty good healthcare, but who knows what's going to happen over the next little while. But anyway, but we don't really do that a huge amount. People can get that sort of thing in Australia, I think, if they're really lucky and they hit lots of criteria and things like that. But that's quite a different thing to what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So this is about us. Well, once again, it's about us more taking control of our own health and choosing to do something that actually helps us to heal from the inside out. So basically with these stem cells, just by the way, how important are they? If you don't release stem cells, you can die within 3 days.
Right, yes.
So stem cells are like oxygen and water. They're one of those building blocks that if we don't have them, we feel exhausted and tired and you simply can't. So once again, we've been chatting about chronic fatigue.
Yes.
Well, this is one of the reasons for chronic fatigue, is not being able to release stem cells. So imagine if you're 60, 70, 80 years old and you're just exhausted all the time. It might actually not be things like magnesium deficiency or oxygen. It might actually be that your stem cells have forgotten how to get out of the bone marrow and into your bloodstream.
So is it right that, there are some people who are grumpy and that, and you just look at them and think, oh, you're just being lazy, you're grumpy, you're being nasty, you're having a bad day. And they are, but we look at them sometimes and say, oh, come on, pick your act up, get it together. And maybe it is something like the lack of stem cells.
Yeah. Well, stem cells also affect the way that the brain functions as well. So there are lots and lots of nutrients in this particular algae. But that's sort of nutritive. But the stem cells can actually help people's brains to heal as well. Like it gets across the blood-brain barrier. Stem cells can go anywhere in the body where they need to go. So it really is one of those remarkable things if you can stimulate the stem cells in your body, like even big enough doses of B12. It's one of the things that I know I've used a lot over the years, because when people have anesthetics, some people really don't cope well with anesthetics. Some people are fine. They take them till the cows come home and have no side effects. But if people get really exhausted after anesthetics, then quite often, because anesthetics bind with B12 in the body, and they bind with B12 receptor sites, which means that if the anesthetic doesn't actually leave your body, which it often doesn't, the reason being is that as soon as you're under anesthetics for an operation, your bloodstream's going, holy moly, what the hell is this toxin in here? And it's trying to get rid of it. And obviously it can't while you're having more anesthetic pumped in so the doctor can do what they're needing to do. Yeah. But what your body is already doing the second there's anesthetic in your system is pulling it out of your bloodstream, dumping it into your fat cells, dumping it in. And fat is brain. It's, so the fat is the brain as well. So the anesthetic can end up staying in your body if you don't then pull it out.
How long for?
Oh, forever. It can absolutely stay in there forever. So when doctors say the anaesthetic's out of your bloodstream within 24 to 48 hours, well, that's true of the bloodstream.
Right, yes, out of the bloodstream.
Absolutely.
But
it can be stored in the body. And the worse people's detox mechanisms are, the more it can stay in. So quite often when Georgia and I are doing histories with people, we sort of have a look and like someone won't have thought about it before and you go, okay, so you had 2 knee operations in 2012. How was your energy before that? They go, I was fine. So quite often it's that cumulative anaesthetic. So firstly, you need B12 to pull the anaesthetic out. And secondly, you need it to reactivate your B12 receptor sites. Right. But you need about 4,000 micrograms a day. So you need quite a chunky dose. So there are products that have like 1,000 micrograms, so you can imagine you would need 4 of those a day.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you can't get them higher than that. If you get a B12 injection, generally that's about 2,000 micrograms.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
looking at 4.
yeah, you're looking at, yeah, that's right. So you'd need 2 B12 injections a day. But the injections don't actually re-stimulate the receptor sites for B12. So you actually need to take it orally in order to reactivate the receptor sites.
Oh, this is getting too hard.
Well, everything's doable, and it's really about, as always, working out what is going on in the system. So one of the things that we see, and the reason I know the B12s help with stem cells, is that it protects your DNA. So the DNA strands, there's these little things on the end called telomeres. So they're like the end of a shoelace, you know, so you've got the little plastic bits on the end of the shoelace. So when the plastic bits fall apart, your shoelace falls apart, you can't use it anymore. That's like the DNA strands have got no more protection.
Wow.
So B12, essential fatty acids, good quality fish oils, lots of turmeric, curcumin, that sort of thing. They're the sort of things that help to lengthen the telomeres. Right. Things like stress, lack of sleep, lack of nutrition, too much alcohol, too much sugar, they're the things that shrink the telomeres.
Right.
So it's about adding things into your life that you know are health-giving and reducing the things that you know are health-taking away.
Well, there you go. I mean, yeah, this is all very interesting.
Yeah.
And I never realised that, that after an operation or something like a new knee or whatever,
yes,
that could actually be staying in your system, not in your blood circulation.
Yeah. It's standard with me with my clients. My clients know I'm going to give them chunky doses of B12 after anaesthetics. They just know it. So, and it doesn't matter what the blood test says, because we actually need to flood the body with B12 so that there is plenty of it, so that it gets deeper into the body and pulls out the anaesthetic. And I'm talking locals as well with, say, dental work. I'm not just talking big operations like knees and shoulders and hips and things. I'm talking anaesthetics. So even with my foot, going back 3 weeks ago, that was because I had the nitrous and whatever they put on it locally. So I've been taking B12 ever since. And that was 3 weeks ago, and I'm still muscle testing up at needing quite a big dose. So I don't know how long it'll take, but...
Well, you must be doing it well, because it is working.
It is working.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago you sort of... Did you have the crutches?
I did.
I
had the crutches the first week, the stick the second week,
and now,
hop the third week.
Nothing.
No, I've got my shoes back on. Yay!
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Oh, very interesting.
Yes.
This is Bay Health. We might take a little break, play a bit of good music. And at 19 to 12, what's the temperature? Let's have a look. Oh, it's just sitting on 28 degrees. It's a very warm Friday. We'll be back with more